Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today and a great showing. I want to thank Commissioner Greg Byrne, Deputy Commissioner Carney, and Rick Gimbel for making this day happen. I'm going to give you a little of my philosophy about preparedness, and it comes from the National Strategy on Homeland Security, which the Bush administration authored just a couple of years after 9/11. And as many of you know, some of the core principles of our Homeland Security strategy are prevention. So first, prevent the hazard. Preparedness, which is something that we're discussing here today. And then response. And as somebody who spent a lot of time on the staff at the White House and the Homeland Security Council field, you always want to be weighed on the the preparedness side rather than the response side. We had a response directorate on Homeland Security Council, and those were the times where you were responding to the hurricanes that were coming up the Gulf, some sort of a terrorist incident. You'd much rather be in the preparedness phase or certainly in the prevention phase. I've spent a good deal of time looking at the South Shore of Long Island. I grew up in Bohemia, so I have an understanding of the types of businesses that have thrived in our town. A lot of defense and aviation industry, left over from Grumman Aerospace, the component industries, and then the businesses, the small businesses that have always been here and that have thrived and in recent years survived. And I'm trying to, with the town board, try to keep these businesses here, try to encourage new businesses, but at the same time, all of our businesses and our residents have to understand that there is a threat out there. And it's an all-hazards approach to threats. That could be a terrorist threat, a catastrophic attack on a U.S. city on the east coast of the United States. And in the United States, we've done our enemy a great service by historically putting all our most important and strategic cities along, within a couple hundred miles of each other along the eastern seaboard. That creates a problem. But in addition to those kinds of hazards and those kinds of events, there are the natural, the weather events that seem to make us feel vulnerable on the South Shore of Long Island. Now, we're sitting up in the hills of Hauppauge, over 100 feet above sea level. My town hall, Islip Town Hall, the basement of it is actually below sea level, and we're in the flood zone. This is of concern to a new supervisor with a Homeland Security background and an approach to survivability of government. One of my roles at the White House was in our Continuity of Government Directorate. And the continuity folks at the White House are very interesting. They're the ones who go to undisclosed secure locations, and our government takes great pains and great expense to ensure that our constitutional form of government survives, regardless of the disaster to the homeland. If we could take just a modicum of that kind of preparedness from the national example and apply that to our everyday lives, in our homes, but then in our businesses, I think we're in a better position to be prepared. We may not be able to survive every single kind of hurricane. We may not be able to keep power up, but if we have the option to keep power up in our own businesses, we should do that. What we found after Hurricane Katrina was that if each of the residences or each of the businesses had more survivability independently, the network of survivability was stronger. What do I mean by that? Well, if the grocery store has their own backup generator and the grocery store knows how to take care of their perishable foods, I think they're going to be in a better position not to need the government assistance, and during a disaster, the government can focus on evacuating senior citizens and patients from Good Samaritan Hospital, say. So it's a whole systematic approach to preparedness that I think as businesses you look at, you would love to do, but there's an expense, there's a cost. And no one likes to invest for the rainy day, but I think since 9/11 and since some of the catastrophic events like Hurricane Katrina and the other storms that we've seen, certainly we got a taste of that last year, of what could happen. I think we need to be in a position independently to make businesses, make residences stronger. That makes the entire ability to respond during a disaster with limited resources from the county, from the state, from the town, and from FEMA. It makes it easier to put those resources in place where they can do the most good, and it doesn't put the strain on them. So here's a principle that I think we can employ at home and in our businesses. We learned after Katrina, and a lot of the lessons learned that came out of what happened with Katrina are applied to our current strategies of dealing with disasters of that nature. Prepositioning of assets. FEMA realized sometimes you can't wait for the municipality, the state, to actually make the request. Preposition those assets and have them ready. So when the request is there, instead of being 18 hours away, they're 2 hours away. That's something that we can apply here. At the town level, we don't put all of our equipment in one yard. They're positioned out. And that was by design many years ago, before we got there. As a business, what can you do? Well, if you have servers, have a backup. If you have critical components of your company that need to be powered, have a backup. Try to prepare for the things you can prepare for, so that when it takes 4 or 5 days for the government to get to you because of flooding or because of downed limbs, you're survivable for that critical period. And then when you're reached, you then go back onto the power grid, you go back onto operable streets. But the key is to survive that initial critical period. And as businesses, I understand the kind of investment that might take. The most important thing you can do as business owners or representatives of your companies or individuals, and something we learned after 9/11 in the military, is accountability for your people. It's easy if you have a badge reader and you go to work every day and 100% of your workforce is 9 to 5 and it's 10 o'clock in the morning and you know that 100% of my workforce should be in this building right now. And you have a personnel system which also tells you the following 5 people are out sick, 2 of them are on jury duty. If you have that kind of personnel system, this does not apply to you. But very few in business or in government have the ability to 100% account for their personnel. This creates a myriad of problems for you as a business owner, but also when you're recovering from a disaster, your people are your greatest asset. I mean, I'm the CEO of the town, but I can't do my job without my Commissioner of Public Safety and Enforcement, without my Chief of Staff. You need your key and essential personnel. So if you can first identify who are your key and essential personnel within your company or within your organization, in a disaster, who do I need to keep things running, to keep the train on the tracks? And then 2, to be able to identify exactly how you account for the rest and how they report into you and how you know that they're safe and their families are safe. Because I'll tell you, in a disaster, everybody's worried about their family, right? Everybody thinks about their family and their loved ones. So if you're accounting for their loved ones, and if you're accounting for your personnel as a business leader or as a leader of your organization, you're light years ahead of even some of our government agencies. So before I take questions, I'll sum it up by saying Prevention. It's my personal belief in my years in the intelligence business and in Homeland Security that another catastrophic attack on the United States it's probably not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And what form that comes, I mean, there are talking heads on television every night that tell you what they think and where it's going to come. Of course, the government's the United States government is going to be responsible for that. But I don't think as a town or as a business owner or a leader of your organization, you should rely 100% on that, because in a true catastrophic situation, those resources aren't going to get to you right away. Survive that critical period. You can try to prevent those attacks. You can't prevent a hurricane. You can't prevent flooding. How many of you in this room have a business that's below your headquarters, or you have substantial assets that are below the flood stage? Show of hands. Okay, only one or two. I mean, those are things that all of you can address. I know we have a wonderful airport, Long Island MacArthur Airport, and it's over 100 feet above sea level. Obviously, in our preparedness plans, having that kind of an asset is huge. Identify your greatest assets in a disaster. Identify where your survivability is best, first and foremost. And then secondly, your personnel. Having a generator is great, having power is great, but if you don't have your people in the building with you to save the files, to make sure the systems are up, to answer your clients and your customers as they're calling in saying, hey, I really don't care that you're having a hurricane on Long Island, I'm in San Antonio and I want my products. So make sure you're identifying your personnel, not only for your business's sake, but from a human interest sake, from human resources perspective. And then, again, your town government is here to be a partner with you. Let our emergency preparedness, emergency management expertise help you with that. Continue to reach out to us, and if we can be of assistance and we can partner with you to take these steps.